Whoa, we're back for some Bleach Soul Resonance, and I want to talk about Kenpachi because we are still at B0, but we do have him built, and not on the previous gears that I showed before. We actually do have a set of his own. We also have his core stamp maxed out, not, duped or anything, but I mean like the actual level, which is pretty good. I don't know if you could actually use another core stamp with him. It all seems a little too pivotal. If you are considering getting Kenpachi still, because maybe he's one of your favorite characters, if you don't have the ability to get his weapon, I would say that it is essentially impossible to actually play with this character without his weapon, so I would not recommend it. As for his overall volatility, his skills, his power, I do think that it took a bit of time for people to understand how to actually use the character, myself included. I'm no genius or anything when it comes to Bleach Soul Resonance. I'm just a guy playing free to play, trying to get you guys information as well as fast as I can. And in that way, I do want to talk about Kenpachi's value. If you do not have Bankai Ichigo, I do think Kenpachi is a worthwhile get, even at B0. I'm still on the fence as to whether or not I will be taking him to B2, though I do think that B1 could be a pretty valuable stopping point, if I'm honest. This one seems really good to have. B2 would seem nice, but if I'm honest, as we sort of look over here, at 50% crit rate, I'm not exactly like hurting for crit rate either, so might go back in for one more dupe, might see what is shaping up like once because here's my current plan. It is currently, as of recording this, as of right now recording this, it is the second. It is just turned to second. It is reset. We can go here. You can see everything's all lit up on my screen because I need to do my dailies. So it is the second. Once I see who is coming next, which will probably come as of the 3rd when they do the live stream, we will 100% know who's coming next. Probably, well, I shouldn't say 100%, I'm going to say probably. We will almost certainly know who's coming next, because I think they're going to do an actual reveal, an actual build up, which would be pretty cool. Actually get some information out there instead of having to always do guesswork. But yeah, it seems like, since we know that, and since I do have a pretty good amount of crit rate here, I don't really need the bonus crit rate from going up here. Though obviously the closer you are to 100%, the more and more this character just, completely dumps damage, right? Especially as you get up to the highest and highest amounts of actual boundaries. That said, if we do end up getting Nell, I would like to have some resources saved for her, because she will probably be a meaningful support. Not only are supports in a premium, but Nell has to essentially contend with Yudahara for a spot, unless she is a tactics character, in which case she will just add on to the insanity that is his character. I did see Giku talking about this. Maybe it was just on Twitter, but I agree that Byakuya is not a character I would like to be using long term. I think this character is kind of butt to use, I'm not gonna lie. And this is the thing, I love Byakuya. I think Byakuya is so cool, but I am looking more forward to a pure DPS Byakuya, maybe where he's using his sort of secondary technique with his Bankai. I'm looking forward to a maybe more of a support Byakuya, or just another tactics Byakuya who happens to be a different version of himself. Either way, I would definitely like maybe a spirit Byakuya who's using a lot of Hado, because he is one of the characters in Bleach who does use a lot of Hado, especially early on, so that would be cool. Yes, let's get another Byakuya down the pipeline. That's why I always think that it's funny when people are like, oh my god, we're gonna run out of characters to put in the game. Nope. No. You could make a version of each of these characters that's just a different element. Easily. Byakuya could easily be a thrust character. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's obvious. And we can get that. But yeah, back to Kenpachi. It does mean that ultimately we are preferring to use Aizen as his tactics character, which, no duh, ends up being the case for a lot of characters. As for his stamps, I have some pretty good pieces of gear, though I wouldn't go as far as to say they're perfect either. Slash damage bonus is great. Ailment damage bonus is pretty good. Crit rate here would like it to be higher, but we did hit the attack percent twice there, which is really nice for level 30. We have crit rate main stat, attack percent 2, attack flak 2, and crit damage here. This is a pretty good piece. If we had gotten any crit rate at all on this, it would be giga. And then here we have an attack percent piece with crit damage and crit rate. I'm still considering whether I want to actually take this to the next level. Remember that if I did this, we would take our crit up to about 56%. I'd say 60% crit is, like, for no dupes in the character, would be like kind of perfect. But yes, that is where we sort of are. If I decided to, I'm still waiting. I'm still, you know, just farming some gear. Why not just farm gear and wait and see what happens until then? Because there's essentially no rush. As for, I should not be here. I should be probably here because we're almost at 60%, which means we would get 16% more damage. So that is my mistake. I was trying out different ones, but yeah, we'll just return there. But yeah, Kenpachi is really good. I think that, like I said, he took a little doing. I think finding the gaps to switch out and realizing that this character actually is not greedy at all for screen space is a heaven sent. If you watch the Giku videos, then you've probably seen him showcase how exactly you switch in and out with this character. You essentially can switch at the very start of your technique. So you pop technique, switch out. You use Rampage Raid, which is your special attack. You hold it until the stab, switch out. Same with his actual enhanced technique, the Spiritual Pressure Burst. You go into the air, immediately switch out. Character has a ton of ways to get out of the fight. That is one thing I would say is very assuring for this character, because in the event that this character gets any sort of buff at all, I think Kenpachi is going to be fucking insane, because a lot of the sort of outrage, quote unquote, with the character happened immediately, which means it happened before we've started to learn how to do this character, like use this character. And if you're following my logic, that means if they actually buff this character at any point, he is going to be insane, because we have essentially snuck in a little bit of like downplaying in fighting game terms. We've downplayed him, and if they buff him with what we know about the character now, he's going to be a monster unit, right? He's already the best DPS in the game if you account for actually raising him, though it would be nice to have him better around, you know, this part. So will I pull? Will I not? Again, I have 10,419 tickets. We have plenty more coming, as well as 5 tickets here for the free ski. And if we get there on the 3rd and, you know, Nell gets confirmed, we sort of know what's coming next, we sort of know what to expect, then yeah, I would say that this becomes a much more interesting prospect to me, especially if I do decide again to skip Grimjaw, mostly because, and I've said it before, I do not need a DPS when it comes to strike. I kind of just need a, you know, helper character. I need a support. I need a tactics character. I need something like that. If we got a Mayuri who is like Aizen, which means that a Mayuri who's like the strike version of Aizen. Don't make him good on every team like Aizen is. Just make him the strike version where he's just so powerful. He's doing so much damage and he's lowering a bunch of resistances and defense and stuff like that. And just stick him on strike. Stick him on strike so he doesn't have to move ever. And, you know, buff Nemu so that if Mayuri's there, then she gets a bonus to how useful she is, right? That makes Yoruichi insane, and we don't have to worry about, you know, continuing to add on to, you know, DPS characters. Everyone who wants Grimjaw can have Grimjaw, but then I can just, like, you know, get a free skip. But yeah, I do think that Kenpachi has turned out to be a very powerful character. Here's my stat run through one more time just so you could see it. 80% crit damage isn't super high, which is sad, but we do have the 50% crit rate and a little bit of ailment damage bonus. If we did go to Boundary 2, it would free up that slot to go even crazier on his crit damage. Though I think if I ever did pull for an extra copy of this character, it would just be for the Boundary Ascension 1, which would be plenty. That would be plenty for me if I'm, you know, being reasonable, because I am still free to play. You know, I haven't bought anything, I haven't pushed anything, but this bit here, this special attack from Spirit Burst seems extremely good, and also rewards, what is it, gain from releasing is increased by 100%, which it makes it so that when you're actually using his special attack here, you go into your spiritual pressure burst really, really fast, probably in like 2 rotations instead of 3 or 4, which is really, really good. But yeah, Kenpachi, thumbs up. One of the funnest characters in the game to me personally. I think, again, when we first got him, everyone thought that he had to go through all of his animations and he had to do everything to the end and he had to get hit a bunch and all this stuff, and it made him less fun to people, less dynamic. But now that he's actually kind of a switch heavy character, it makes him really, really fun. Your hands are moving constantly when you're playing this character. Giku said it best when he said, I don't know how you play this character on the phone. You just have to like die, I guess. Like playing this character and you're only using your phone and you're not on your PC on BlueStacks, you get such a worse version of Kenpachi that it's kind of crazy. But it ends up being the Geen thing where now we have another character who isn't really greedy, who is filling in for Slash, and who can go on so many different teams because he is just this raw DPS unit who isn't really reliant on sort of anything. The most that Kenpachi is reliant on is having someone to use his off-field time, and in that case, again, Aizen, who is fairly greedy in his own right, just becomes a character who is such a no-duh choice. I cannot wait until we don't have to use Byakuya anymore. As far as the team I'm going with for my Frenzy Feast, I haven't decided fully yet, if I'm honest. I'll probably run a mostly strike or slash team. I don't know if I'm going to use Byakuya, so I could use Aizen, Kenpachi, Yudahara here. Then in thrust, I can use the all thrust team. And then on strike, am I just not going to have Yudahara or, or Aizen? That seems kind of rough. That does seem kind of rough. So we'll have to see. I could run Yachiru on the slash team, thus freeing up Yudahara for strike. We'll have to wait and see. I'll probably be getting to that right after this, and we'll again talk about my scoring and the like. I ranked pretty highly, high enough that I actually got a new title, which is the War Wraith. Here we can see right here. Do you really need a reason to fight? This is for getting like top 7% or something. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, that is my Kenpachi rundown. If you have any plans of pulling again for Kenpachi, if you want like a boundary or anything like that, just get one more day. Just one more day. We're getting a ton of tickets for this one. So just one more day, see what they're pulling for the next drop. We're probably looking at Nellel. Nellel seems the most likely, though I'm going to try and stay away from leaks, period, from now on, because it does seem like leaks are negatively affecting the game, or at least behind the scenes from what we know. And I want the game to be around, man. It's fun. It's doing well. To anyone who's worried about like any sort of monetary fall off, do understand that the game is performing within like expectations. Like, I don't think anyone would say that Bleach Soul Resonance is failing or flopping. If you actually look at its competitors and how long they've been around and how much time they've had to do anniversaries and campaigning and marketing, I think Bleach Soul Resonance is doing really well. My views on my channel, as a small channel, as well as views on people's like Giku's channel, should be proof enough that people have an interest in this game. You know what I mean? Like, if no one was playing this game, I don't think a small channel like mine would be, picking up, like maintaining and picking up traction as fast as it has been. Of course, if you've been here this long and you've heard me say that, I would like to thank anyone who's watching. I know I haven't gotten the messages in a while, but I've been, grinding out content, grinding up my character, and then having to do stuff for real life as well. So, I'm stretched a little thin, but I appreciate it. Thank you. I've been Lone. Like if you like the video, subscribe to the club. We all go make it, and peace.